Hey, yeah, we're just a couple of days away from getting this thing kicked off, and done a good job tightening up a few things, but there's not a whole lot more really to talk about. We just got to keep doing the work and kind of finish up our final preparations, and the last couple of days before a game are really important for us. Just mentally making sure we get everything on the same page and everybody dialed in and had a good week of practice. We'll try to finish it up the next couple of days and get ready to go and play well on Saturday. So that's really about all we got for updates there.
Have y'all do you have in mind right now how the running back rotation is going to work, or is that going to be like a quarter by quarter thing?
It's kind of week to week and quarter by quarter, I think, a little bit. Those guys, you'd expect Draylon to go out there first, just kind of the body of work from throughout spring, fall camp and everything. But, it's a good problem to have. You got 4 guys who have played really well, and I think every game the plan is to try to get them in there, get some touches, and get them going a little bit, and then you just kind of ride the hot hand that day, and you just kind of stick with it and see. That'll be probably week to week. Who ends up with more carries and things like that. But they've all got different strengths and weaknesses. Whether that be knowing, understanding, and executing pass protection. Some of them are a little bit better in space and things like that. So as we go, we'll try to do a good job and get them in position to do what they do best. But the way we play, mixing it up, with the different formations and sets and plays type, they got to be able to do a little bit of everything. So I think it'll just be kind of week to week, and we'll kind of, once we get somebody hot, we'll try to ride that a little bit longer.
With the, I guess, the unprovenness at the receiver spot for guys like, say, a Rob Williams, I know normally you guys would like to rotate a lot of receivers in as well. Is this kind of a situation where you kind of give them, maybe a little more series consecutively than maybe normally in the past, just to kind of see how they, I guess, sort of execute, perform in those situations?
Yeah, definitely. We've kind of talked about it, I think, quite a bit kind of leading up to this. You got a handful of guys in there, with Pete and Jake, who have really done it a lot and done it well for us. And then, Rob, from fall camp all the way through this point, has really been probably the most consistent at X. But we like all the guys that are behind them. We feel like those guys are going to be good players. I just think that you kind of got to ease them into it a little bit, and you rely on the players who have made plays in the past to go out there and go do it as these guys come along. I think Harvey has really, the game plan stuff has narrowed down, and that's helped him tremendously. Tavion does a lot of really good things out there, but you keep going back to it. Dalen and Jaden and Charles and Colbert, those guys have all had their moments here in camp. So I expect them to play really well. But I think you do have to kind of ease them into that situation. A few years back when we were really young, we didn't have the luxury of doing that. We had some older guys that got banged up, got hurt early, and then you just kind of had to throw them all in there and figure it out. This year we've got a little bit – we're set up a little bit better than that, in that we do have some experience. So yeah, it's probably not where it's like, hey, you guys are all even thirds. That's definitely not the way that we see it right now. Hopefully at some point you start to feel that way, but right now you got to make sure that the guys that need to be in there are in there to start the series in critical situations, and those other guys they're gonna earn that as the season goes on, and they'll get enough time to do that.
Trayvon had some big plays in the spring game. How did he kind of progress through camp, and where is he right now?
He's a guy that we've always, really been excited about, like ability wise, and you always felt like, man, like he kind of keeps flashing a little bit, just kind of maturity wise and figuring things out off the field and kind of how everything works, and learning how to be a pro and how to approach it a little bit is what took him a little while. Kind of similar to what we talked about with Rob a little bit. And then this spring he had a lot of moments, right? In the spring game, had some really good flashes there. But I wasn't ready at that point to say that he was ready. You are what you consistently do, right? And I say that a lot. And to that point, he was turning the corner. You go through fall camp, and we actually moved him from X to Z, because we're sitting there looking at X, and you're like, okay, well, you got Rob who's playing really good, and Tavion and Harvey, and then, we're not even talking about Kadarius Wade. That guy's going to be pretty special too. So he said, well, he's a little older, physically more mature. He's been in the system for a while. Let's move him to Z. That'd be the best chance for him to be able to contribute this year. And he hit the ground running with it. So he's in a position now where, I expect him to play, week in and week out. And I think he's a guy that probably could surprise a lot of people by the end of the year with his play.
at cornerback, obviously you kind of have your two starters, and then you have some younger guys. Justin's been hurt, and now he's healthy. So how important is Saturday's game a little bit of a testing ground to see how much you can play them in a week 2 conference game, or you plan on doing that anyway?
They got to play. They have to. They're what they've done throughout the summer and fall camp. We feel really confident in those two guys that are behind them. Glenn, we should get Glenn Brown back next week. He's kind of working his way back into it, and he's looked really good too. And that's a veteran that's played a lot. But you got to remember. We have Amir that we were comfortable moving Amir to star, who's played corner for us in games because we feel like these guys have elevated their play to that level where we're comfortable doing that. And these guys have to play, and we have a lot of confidence in them. Both extremely talented. They're young players, but they've really done a great job, and they've shown us that, we can put them out there. We need to put them out there, and we will put them out there because they've earned that. And, I say it all the time. If you think you're going to be able to play a corner out there for, 60, 70, 80 snaps a game and him play full speed and play really well, I just don't think that's going to happen. Is it going to be 50-50? Well, probably not, early on, but they're going to get significant snaps. And, you don't have a lot of time to kind of figure out. Every game matters. We all know that, but conference games, or double, those matter, for what you want postseason. So, you got to figure it out quick. And so those guys have to play. But again, we're confident and expect them to play really well.
Is Justin similar to Caleb in terms of the kind of cornerback he is and the skill set? Or how would you compare him?
It's kind of a little bit more like Trey, a little bit Amos, and like the size, length, movements, things like that. But he's a field guy. He's big enough to be a boundary corner. But they're both probably better as field corners where they're out there in space. And that's where we have him at. And I think that's where he's the most comfortable. So I think his length is not quite, what Caleb is. He's kind of in between that. But he's not quite as thick built as Caleb either, so he is a little bit more of a field guy. Shadwell is a guy that, him and Agu are similar physical build structure-wise, but Shadwell's just a little bit better in the boundary, a little more physical in some of those things, fit and run, jamming, doing all those things in the boundary and recovering and playing. So corner, field corner and boundary to us are kind of two totally different spots a little bit in the skill set that it requires. Now, obviously, you want guys that can do both. That's what you always look for is position flexibility, but their skill sets kind of fit a little bit, differently, which is good. That's what we need.
As Jeff yesterday about when you have a left side of the offensive line that's as experienced and as good as Nathan and AJ have been over the years, how much it just kind of frees up the offensive play calling. How much does it do that when you've got two guys on the left side that have been doing what they've been doing?
Just generally speaking, I think when you feel like you've made the progress that you have on the offensive line, just in general, you feel a lot better about going into a game. You feel like, okay, if you end up in 2nd and 10, you can recover from that. Last year, for us, that was kind of one of the deals, especially early in the year when we were kind of struggling to run the ball effectively. Number one, we weren't converting enough in short yardage situations on 3rd and 4th and short. Those you should be 80%, and we finished the year 70, over 70-something%, but we got better as the year went on. Early, it was not very good. And then, 4 to 6 range, we were really good. We were 65%, which is way above the average. And then you get to 7 to 10, and we're not very good there. No one's very good there. You got to stay in manageable down and distances where, yeah, you can run it, right? And maybe you run it and you go for it on 4th. You got a lot more in the passing game whenever you're 4 to 6 range. That's good than whenever you're 7 to 10. It's just kind of natural that way. So, you feel like, yeah, maybe you can take some shots early in the down. And if you don't cash, okay, well, you're 2nd and 10, but you feel like you can recover and get to manageable down and distances and things like that. So, having the experience coming back is really good for us. Because, the guys that we had last year, they had experience in different spots, not a lot of time together. And certainly that's something that took us a little while to gel. So, I mean, those guys, yeah, you feel a lot better about really just about being able to go play ball, and not playing first down to make third down manageable. You can play first down to play first down and try to, maybe throw it more, maybe take a shot, maybe do some things that are a little bit, maybe not quite as safe, I guess, if you will, to get in yards and to get to second and medium where you can get to third and short type of deal. So, yeah, I mean, that's we expect them to play well so we can run the offense the way we want to do it.
Got time for a couple more?
I know that you're a little bit of a guessing game with Northwestern State. They have the same coach, but personnel is a little different. Which one or two areas would you say, matchups that you're the most concerned about that y'all have to really play well against them and what they do well?
Well, I think if you start with our offense against them, they do have a lot of experience back on their front, right? Between the D-line and the linebackers, they've got a lot of experience in that front seven. So that's a good thing for them. On the back end, it kind of, I don't want to say concerns you, but you don't really know what they've got coming back. There's so many new guys in there. So, how do you match up, in man coverage? Maybe you feel good about what you matched up against last year, but I mean, shoot, they're completely new back there. So, that's something that you got to kind of figure out. I expect, their strength up front will be, we need to go handle that and play well up front, which will be a good thing for us to have to block a good front that's active, that does a lot of stuff. And you got to win some matchups on the back end, and that'll be kind of the thing is, are we able to create separation? Are we getting open? Are we struggling, in the pass game to be able to get open? And they're going to challenge you and play a lot of man coverage, or traditionally that's what they have, right? So you got to win those matchups. And there's not a lot of scouting report on what's coming back, truthfully. For us on defense, I think they do a really good job of putting the players that they have in position, I know it sounds redundant, but put him in position to make plays. They've got a slot receiver that's really shifty and crafty, and they're going to put him in the RPO game where he's in the run. You got a player in conflict, and if you fit this way, they're going to throw it to him and try to get him in space and go. Their backs, they don't have big bruisers. That's kind of not how they're built, even up front. So they do a lot of things where they'll RPO off of some slow developing runs and things like that. And if you don't fit it right, they'll be patient. They'll bounce it and they'll get in space and go. They do a lot in the pass game, throwing it to them. So, they do a good job of getting their players in position to play well. They're active with their defensive line. It's one of the strengths of what they've got right there. They've got a couple linebackers, a star and a linebacker returning that have played a lot. Those guys are active in the fits and things like that. So, overall, I mean, we know a lot of those guys and, have a lot of respect for them. They do a good job. They make sure that their players, they have schemes that fit their players, and that's what you try to do as a coach.
Anything else?
Tyler Guidry, a guy that's been here for a long time, what have been specific areas that you've seen him take strides or just continue developing that has you confident in what he's bringing to that defense this year?
I mean, just overall, I mean, he's just grown in every area of it. I mean, Tyler got here, and he's a player we're really excited about out of high school. And, he ended up kind of falling behind some, really good players, like Chauncey Manac. I mean, he was a pretty unique player in this league, and then we ended up moving Dre out there because we felt like we could play some more D linemen inside. And it just kind of, some of those things just kind of didn't work in his favor, and it's just part of it. Last year, his role grew on defense, as a backup and in certain situations. But for him this year, you talk to guys all the time, right? And guys like Tyler are guys that you're really proud of because they get it. The whole work while you wait mentality. I mean, he could have easily, jumped ship and went somewhere else and just, said, oh, I'm getting screwed here, or I'm not getting opportunity, whatever the case might be, however he maybe felt at some time. But he never did that. He found a way to matter to this team every day. He was on scout team early on. Then he starts playing on special teams. That's where all his reps came from, on special teams. He takes reps at wing on field goal because he wants to play and he wants to help this team. And that was his role for a while. Last year it grew a little bit. And then this year, he's a starter in Sam, and he's going to play, at Jack. I know he's not on there, but he's going to play a whole lot at Jack. We just kind of split it just for the roster part, for the depth chart piece of it. But, the guy's going to have a huge role for us. And it's a testament to him just putting blinders on and just working every day and saying, man, I'm going to work through it and I'm going to end up getting what I want. And, for him, I couldn't be happier for a guy like him to be able to go out there and play a really significant role for us because our kids respect him, our coaching staff respects him. And I mean, the guy's earned everything he's gotten. You know, I mean, he had to do it the hard way, and I appreciate that. I respect that about him, and you know, that's kind of that's what makes this thing fun. You know, you got guys that do it the right way, and he'll get what he deserves this year.